let's see what we have. All right, so there's the page for Nextflow in case you want to read more about Nextflow. So we are going to look at this section here, reading from file pairs. All right, so paired and reads basically. It's note that it's not necessarily for paired and reads, but then for files that come in pairs. All right, so it could be FASTQ files or it could be other files. All right, so this one has been designed for bioinformatics, but the principle remains the same. So I'll show you how we can do it. So to be able to read file pairs, all right, for example, FASTQ files which come as paired and reads, what you have to do is to specify a pattern. So if you look at what we have here, let me just enlarge it a bit. We see it says from file pairs. So this is the channel that we have to use. And for those who are beginners, so channels, these serve as kind of containers, all right, that allow us to transfer data, or let's say information, okay, from one process to the other. I'm just putting it in a simple way, but there are other explanations. So I'm just putting it in that way to help us fine tune to what we want to do. All right, so you can read more about channels also in this page. I think I'll open it for you in case you want to read more. Okay, so they are used for data flow basically. So we are focusing on this aspect, the paired one, okay, the one responsible for paired files. Okay, so I'll just shift to that again. Let's just check. So that's from file pair. I'll check it here. Let's see. Let me just check it here first. All right, so this is a section. So we are focusing on just this section. Right? So I repeat, I will try to explain it in detail because some of the viewers may be beginners. So I'll just go over again. So when reading paired files, or let's say file pairs, whichever one you want to put it, for example, paired and read, we use the from file pairs channel. All right, so once you have this channel, what you need to do is to specify a pattern, a bash like pattern that will return all those pairs, and then Nextflow will quickly take it and then you can now process them further. So today we are going to focus on just reading the file pairs, right? And then subsequently we'll look at various ways to process them depending on your needs or depending on your objectives. So let's quickly go to our terminal, and before we start, I must say that you need to first make sure you have Nextflow installed. So I have tutorials that show how to install Nextflow. So check the description box, you'll find links to those videos. All right, so I'll first move to my terminal first. That's what I'm going to do, and then I am going to create a directory. I'll say make the Nextflow projects. All right, and then I'll cd into it. All right, so I need to do this first because I'm assuming we are starting a project. So we need to make sure we separate whatever files we are going to generate or we are going to download from files which are already on our system. It helps us to prevent accidental deletion or modification of already existing files. All right, so let's now get some example paired and data, or let's say paired files. All right, in this case, we are using FASTQ files. So I'll just show you where to download them. So when you go to this page here, you have some files you can use, but I've aggregated all these files we are going to use in a file which is on my GitHub repo, one of my GitHub repos. So I will leave the link to this page in the description box so that you can get these files. So these are paired and reads. So that means the files come in pairs. So we are going to use this to demonstrate how to read paired and reads, or let's say paired files in Nextflow. So these are the links. So what you need to do is to just copy these links. We don't need to download them one by one. I'll show you where to do it on Linux, which is very fast. So all that we need to do is to first download this information, okay, this file. So we can simply just copy and paste, or you can also download the text file itself. All right, but for simplicity's sake, let's just copy it and then create a text file on our system and then put it there. But if you still want to download no problem. You can just come to raw, click this one here, and then you get this link. So you can use this link to download everything. All right, to download this file, you can use it, but I will just copy and paste the links. So I'll just do a copy, and then I'll move to the terminal, and then I'm going to open a text file, and then I'll paste the links in them. All right, so I'll use Nano, but you can also use VI or Vim or whichever text editor you have. That is fine. All right, so I'll use Nano. I'll say links.txt. That's the name. And then I'm going to paste the links I copied there. So these are the download links. You use this to get the files. All right. By the way, there's also another way to download the file directly from Nextflow. Okay, but we will talk about that later. For now, we have the links we will use. So what I want us to do is to just edit and save changes first. Let's do an ls. We should see the file. We can do a cut first to see the links. All right, so once we have these links, we are good to go. That's what we are going to do. All right, so we are going to use a simple trick. So we are going to use wget to download, but you can also use scale. The principle holds. All right, so what we want to do is to do a cut and then get these files. All right, we do a cut on this file, and then we are going to download. So I'll just say cut links.txt, and we are going to add a pipe, and I'll say x-axis, and I'll say dash I, and I'll say dash p for to download 4 files at a time. All right, simultaneously. But you can also increase it, that's fine, but let's keep it at 4. And then I'll just say wget, and I'll bring my single quotes, curly brackets, and that's single quotes. All right, we are going to use this to download. All right, but if you are still confused, don't worry, you can still just use wget on each of them. You can just type wget. Let me just put it here. You can just type wget and then also paste the link. Let's say ftp.https. You can do it one by one, that's also fine. But then if you want to be efficient, then you will just go with the x-axis, which we are doing now. All right, so let's execute this command to download the files. So when we do it, it's going to try to download them, okay, quickly for us. So let's wait and see how it goes. All right, the files have been downloaded, so we can proceed. So let's clear the screen. Let's do an ls, and we are going to find them there. All right. You can also do some additional checks. So you can say du-sh to check the size. Star.json. All right. So you should get something like this coming up. All right. So these are the sizes for the files, the respective files. So we have 3 samples, by the way. So these are paired end reads. So each pair for 1 sample. So we have 3 samples here. All right. So these are bacteria isolates, bacterial genome isolates. All right. So we are going to read these pairs. All right. So in Nextflow, we read it using this approach. That's what I showed. We have to call a channel. So basically what we are going to do is to write a Nextflow script and then just read the channels. So we are basically going to follow something like this here. So just to get us started, because there are cool tutorials that I'll be making in this channel. So for beginners, this is where you have to start from so that you can gradually build up your expertise in Nextflow. And let me know if you have any better approach. Okay, we are learning, so if you think there's any other better approach, you can also bring it. We will make a tutorial on that. So let's get back. So let's look at the rationale for getting the paired end reads. All right, first of all, let's do an ls again. We have our files which are here. Let us put these files in another directory. Let's say make the Pascal, and then let's move these files in there first. So I'll say mv star fastkill.gz. I'll move them there. So I will just say fastkill to move to the directory. So if I do an ls, I'm going to see this directory called fastkill. If I do ls into it, I'm going to see my files. Excellent. Let's clear the screen. Let's ls into fastkill again, and then we can now proceed to read these paired end reads in Nextflow. So first of all, if you want to read in Nextflow, you need to make sure you have a pattern that allows you to get the files in pairs. All right. So in Bash, in Linux, there's a way to do it, and you always have to make sure you have that information at hand. If you take a look at this data here, this data that we have here, for each sample, for each pair of reads, each pair of data, all right, let's say we have, this is 1 and 2. Now, how do we differentiate them? If you look at them, they all have the same name, except the letter or letters that distinguish them, okay, that separate them, that tells us that this is read 1, this is read 2, or this is file 1, this is file 2. So here it is the value 1, and we have the value 2 here. So 1, that is for the first pair, 2 for the other pair or the second pair. So this is what differentiates that. All right. You can also add the _1, _2 to it. That's also fine. Sometimes it's necessary to add that. So let us read this. Let's just do an ls, okay, and get the files in pairs in Bash before we now put it in Nextflow. What you should note is that Nextflow is a means to an end, meaning that before you write your Nextflow script, you should already know that whatever your command you are going to use runs, all right, so that you can now put it in Nextflow, so to make it scalable and also reproducible or portable. All right, so let's first do an ls into fastkill and get the files in pairs. Then using that same approach, we will now put it in Nextflow. All right, so to get it in pairs, as I made mention of, you need to get a name or letters that distinguishes or that separates file 1 from file 2. All right, so that's what we do. So I will say ls fastkill, and I'm going to say star, all right, star, and then I'm going to bring my curly brackets, and then I'm going to say _1, _2. I'll bring my curly brackets again, and I'll say star.fastkill.jz. You can do it this way, that works. There are slightly different approaches to do this. Now you notice that I brought _1, I brought _2. The reason being that if you look at the sample names, right, for the sample names, some of them have 1 in the sample names itself, in addition to this one here, which separates that. Some of them too also have the value 2, etc. All right, so in this case, to make that name unique, the name that distinguishes between read 1 and read 2 unique, then you can add an additional character. In this case, this is our character, the underscore. All right, so if you just say 1, then this will be returned, this will be returned, this will be returned, this will be returned. If you just say ls *1 star, in fact, all the items will be returned. Let me even just show you first before I proceed. If I just say ls fastkill / and I say *1 star, you will see that everything has been returned to me, because all of them in their actual sample names, they have 1. If I say ls fastkill * _1 star, now we are getting somewhere. So this now returns just what? The read 1 for me, the file 1 for each of the files, each of the samples for us. So in that same thing, if I say *_2, I'm going to get it. All right. So now if you want to get both pairs, that is where we now do what? Add this. That's what I just showed here. That's where we now do _1, _2. So _1, _2 in the curly bracket means that all hits for this or this. So if the file has this pattern _1, it should be returned. If it's _2, it should be returned for us. All right, so once we do this way, then it allows us to get the files in pairs. So let's execute this, and then you will see it coming up. Okay, you see them. Okay, you see all of them. All right. Now in Bash, when you do it this way, it will still going to return all the files because you have them in pairs. But in Nextflow, because we are putting it in the channel responsible for paired data, then it will do some additional processing and get us the samples. Okay, in it will get us the samples pair by pair. All right, so this works. So the additional activity is that we put it in Nextflow. Nextflow will now put in the necessary commands behind the scenes for us to now get us the files pair by pair, and then we can process them. So this is the rationale behind getting the pairs, the paired end data. All right, so now we will go into Nextflow and then do the stuffs. So we are going to create a Nextflow script, and then we are going to read the pairs. Okay, the paired files or the paired end reads. All right, so first of all, let's open a script. I'll use Nano. That's what I prefer to use. Again, you can use VI, VM, VIM, any text editor of your choice. That is fine. I will use Nano because it's straightforward. Okay, so I prefer to use that one. So I'll say Nano, and I'll say script.nf. I will put it this way, and I'll open it. Now in Nextflow, with the version of Nextflow we are using, it requires that the activities or the executions will be in what we call a workflow. Okay, so we'll just type workflow, bring a curly bracket, bring other curly brackets, and inside we'll put in the command that we want to execute. So everything here will be executed for us. So we need this keyword first. This tutorial is a simple one, so all that we are going to do is to read the file first. All right, now I'm going to show you two different things here. All right, so that's it, or let me just say one because I just want to make it simple. Now let's just say the files you have, you already know the path. Okay, let's clear the screen. You know the files can be found here. There's the path. Okay, at the moment it's in our current directory. All right, so it's just FastQ. All right, so if you have that, ideally I recommend you use the absolute path. So I can just get by saying real path FastQ. All right, so this will give me the absolute path for the directory which has the FastQ files. All right, for macOS users, probably this command may not work. So in that case, you can just do a cd FastQ and then just say pwd. That will also give you the absolute path. All right, so you need this information. You can still just do just normal FastQ, but in some cases it may give issues. So I prefer we use the absolute path. So please make sure you have the absolute path for the FastQ files. All right, now let's get back to our Nextflow script. So if you have it this way, then that is fine. Okay, now in this tutorial, I'll just do it here. We have this workflow which we have in there, which we will come back to. All right, because we need to get that. All right, now let's come here. We can define the FastQ files, or we can even put it on the terminal. I would prefer we put it on the terminal. All right, so what we will do is that when we are here, or for now, let's just define it. I'll show you two different approaches. So this approach is where we specify everything in the scripts, and then later I'll show you how to also specify it on the command line. All right, so here we will just say params.read. All right, param.read equals, and then you will now take the absolute path, the path which has the FASTQ files. This is mine. This is the absolute path. I'm going to copy everything. And then I'll put it in quotes. I'll use single quotes in this situation. Then I'll say slash, and then this is where the other one that we did come in. ls star curly bracket _1 _2 star dot fastq.gz. Let me just do it again. So it's ls. Yeah, I need to cd first here. I'll cd back. Okay, so it was supposed to be here. So that's this one, ls, to get it. In this case, because we are specifying the absolute path, it's supposed to be what, ls, and then we paste the absolute path slash star curly bracket _1 comma _2 comma star dot fastq.gz. All right, so when we do it, it brings it to you. So it is this entire thing that we have to put in here. So now we have the absolute path. So what we need to do is to say star curly bracket _1 comma _2 curly bracket star dot fastq.gz, and I'll bring it in single quotes. All right, so we have assigned this to a variable, which is this one here. And so now we can come into the workflow environment here and now extract that information. And so here I will say read ch because it's a channel, and I'll say equals, and I'll say channel.from file pairs. All right, let's just check it here first. Let's make sure. So it's channel.from file pairs. So it's channel. So this will have to be lowercase. All right, channel.from file pairs. All right. Let's just maintain the uppercase. All right, so let's put it this way. So I'll say reads _ch equals channel.from file pairs. All right, so we have it this way. All right, so this is what we have, and then we'll bring our bracket up or parentheses, and we now say params.reads, and then we close it. So this, we define it first, and we are now putting it into the workflow environment for execution, and then that's it. Now let's do this. Now that we have this, let's exit, save the changes, and then let's check it out. All right, so let's ls, we should see our script. We can do a cut to see the contents. This is a simple script. So now we are going to execute it. So to execute, I will just say Nextflow run, and I'll specify script.nf. So let's run it. So when you run it, here's what is going to come. All right. Now, so far there has been no error message. Everything is good. What we want to do is to view the files. That's what we want to view. And so what we need to do is to edit the script again. We are going to modify it. So I'll just say nano script.nf, and then in it, I'll add this option. I'll just say reads _ch dot view, to view it, to see the contents basically. All right, so I'll exit again, and I'm going to rerun the script. I'll clear the screen first, do an ls, and I'll rerun the script. So to rerun, of course, it's this one, Nextflow run script.nf, and I'll execute the command. So this time it will run and display the contents for you. Okay, because it's reading them in pairs. So this is batch 1, this is batch 2, this is batch 3. This is what you are going to see. All right. Now, for paired data, what Nextflow does is that you have the sample ID automatically extracted for you, which is this one here. And now you're also going to have the files themselves in another list here. All right, so this is what we have. And so what you have is a tuple. Each is a tuple. And then in the tuple, we'll have your sample ID. And then we have a list of the files that have been identified. And so if you have it this way, then whatever analysis you want to do, you can now push them sample by sample. And when you push them in the Nextflow script, you can automatically, or you can easily extract the sample ID and then use them. For example, if you want to do mapping, for example, let's say BW mem, then you already have your sample ID, you have your read 1, read 2, and then when you run your BW mem and you generate your SAM or BAM files, you can easily specify an output using the sample name that has been given to you. All right, so this is just a step, and then we will do further processing. All right, now let's take a look at something else here. Let's open the script, or let's even do a cut. Now, in the script, what we did was to specify everything in the script. The input files was to specify everything in the script. There are times where you may be applying the script on several batch of samples. So that means that it will be easier if you can just specify the files of interest on the terminal. And so there's a way to do that, which we don't need to use the param.read in the script. So I'm also going to show you that one. So that will be how to specify inputs for Nextflow on the terminal. All right. So let's clear the screen. Let's ls, and then let's just copy the script. And then let's say script2.nf. All right. We are going to do that demo. We are going to specify the inputs on the terminal by modifying the scripts too. So I'll just say nano script2.nf, and then I'm going to clear the param.read. All right. Now you notice I said param.read because the params allows us to get the parameters or to get the input from the terminal. So that's why this params is important. So that means when it's specified, let's say read, then automatically Nextflow gets it for you because you've linked it to the params utility. All right. So here we have param.read. So let's exit. Don't worry, we are maintaining everything here. Let's exit. Let's say y for yes. Let's modify it. So now if you run the script, okay, let's say Nextflow run script2.nf. If you run the script now, what you get is what? Missing file pattern argument read parameter. All right. So because we had the params, Nextflow is already expecting input files with the label reads. That's why it says missing file pattern argument. All right. So we are now going to rerun it. Let's clear the screen. And then I'll specify the inputs. All right. Now with the inputs, we are still going to use this one here. I'll just do this here. We are still going to use this. So that means you need to get a full path. So the param with this path that we had. So I'll just copy it and I'll just use it. All right. So here, when you have it, you can just say Nextflow run script2.nf, and then to specify as inputs, we just say --reads. So in this case, just consider the -- as what? The params dot. let's just put it that way for simplicity's sake. All right. So when you have that, just read space, and then you can now specify your inputs. All right. Now the inputs here, we will still put it in quotes like this. So it's the same format. We will put your inputs in quotes. So your quotes, your single quote comes first. You specify the absolute part and the pattern, and then you end it with another single quote like this. So now let's execute this command. Great. So now when you execute it, this is what you are going to get. All right. So you'll get it like this, and then things become very, very easy for you. Okay. So this is how we specify paired and reads data in Nextflow. All right. So there are more tutorials coming up, and others that I have made. You can also check them in the description box. For those who also want to support the channel or book a paid consultation, I have links you can use to book me. All right. For those who also have alternatives, if you think there's a better alternative, you can share. I'll also try to make a tutorial on that as well. So that'll be all for this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next session. And for those who want the script also, the links are there. See you in the next session.